Most people these days don't take any accountability for their lives. Most people are trying to go to somebody to try and get healing. That's why it never works. If you're trying to get healing, then you're telling yourself that you're broken, which is then if you're broken, then it's a cycle. Because there is no problems in life. Problems don't exist. But we don't live in the experience of our circumstances, we live in the experience of our thoughts. And our thoughts are an illusion.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Make Men Great Again podcast. I'm your host, Scott, and today I've got a friend and very special guest, Greg Riley. Greg, welcome to the Make Men Great Again podcast.
Scotty, big thank you for having me on, mate. I appreciate it. We got row over the last one, but
shit happens.
Really appreciate send the invitation out to have a chat.
Yeah,
it's going to be epic.
It is going to be epic. There's so many places that we could go with this, but let's start off by laying a bit of context for everybody. So obviously we know each other for the last couple of years because one of my close mates, Matt, is your wife's brother. So he's your brother-in-law, right?
Yes.
And
you were her PT.
Yeah, and I was her PT, exactly. So I actually knew of you when you guys were dating. So obviously there's some serendipitous, shall we say, connections that have led us to kind of be on here, and we can go into some more of that from a spiritual place later on. But just like I said before, for context for the listeners, okay, who is Greg Riley, and what do you do?
I think that probably starts with a story.
Okay.
Because you need to understand the story as to the background as to why I did what I did.
Yeah.
Right. So brought up Catholic, like most, good people these days. And so it always has like sort of a religious background to my life. My family's very Catholic and all that kind of stuff. So I went to church, altar boy, all that kind of good stuff. And I was sort of, fell into the trap of when I was growing up, that kind of whole Western culture of success. What does it look like? What are you going to be when you grow up? What are you going to do? And all that kind of stuff. And that in itself leads down a garden path, as we know, that you pretty much put material wealth, success, external validation, and all that stuff on the outside. But what I had as a child, I used to do what's called astral travel. I used to be able to just get out and walk outside my room and walk down the end of the road, through a portal, end up somewhere else. It was freaky. It was just weird as all hell.
Hold on a second.
Well, you don't know this.
So we've never sat down and had this type of, we're always talking about present tense stuff that are going on for each other and our journeys and whatnot. So astral traveling, we'll circle back around to that later on. But for now, for the listeners, what does that look like for you and what age were you?
Oh, I was probably 8, 9, 10, 11.
9, 10, 11.
Yeah, and then used to have these two girls used to come with me in these white clothes and used to just...
Real people, or you mean...
Spiritual people.
Spiritual people.
Yeah, like spiritual angels, something like that.
Yeah.
And I used to do that quite often. And it's like you're having an anabolic experience, pretty much.
So you're awake?
Yeah.
You're awake, and so give me an example. Like you're in your bedroom playing with a toy, and then suddenly you just pop up in another realm?
You pop up, and basically you've got a dimension on a dimension on a dimension, like a bit of Platonist and ceremony where you can see the dimensions. Your eyes are open, but you can see this dimension, but you can see the layers on top of everything.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
and would you having the experience at the time where you're thinking this is normal? Were you having the experience of like, this is cool? Did you think everyone could do that?
No, not really, because you don't really talk about it. And as I said, the Catholic background didn't really, facilitate that kind of stuff. But it was just an exploration. You used to go down the end of the road, through this hole, through this portal like a Stargate kind of thing, and then used to pop out my uncle's farm down in Tynong and, walk around there, and used to be able to pop out in other areas. I didn't even question it at the time. It was weird as all hell.
So I'm just trying to grapple with that. Just jump straight in. I'm already speechless. But you're physically in the same spot. So like
bed. You're still in bed. So your body's still in bed.
So you're actually in bed. So it's not like what in my mind what I was picturing was you're like walking down the street and then you're doing it. I'm thinking, well, what's his body doing while he's traveling? You're saying you're asleep or you're awake, but you're in bed.
You're asleep in bed, but you're awake in your spiritual essence.
And that's different to, say, a dream.
Completely different.
So a dream is where you're... What from your perspective, what is the difference between a dream and what's it called, astral traveling?
Astral travel.
Because I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, like it's a different presence. So a dream is sort of like you're still in your body and it's something that you sort of can't control or anything like that. Things are happening to you, right? Whereas astral travel, you're consciously outside of your body. You can look back and see your body.
It's like you've fallen asleep, but you've woken up somewhere else.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, that does make sense now, because now I'm thinking about literally like the toad, for instance, when we did the toad, and I was just sharing with somebody the other day the experience of when like head hit the pillow, and it was like a switch flicked, and suddenly, I won't go into the full story, but it was like the ground that I was lying on, and my body flipped, and then I was now in back in the tribal Indian days, and instead of you guys sitting around me in a circle, it was a whole tribe of these male Indians, and like I'm now in this Indian's body, and I'm going through an initiation hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
But at the same time, knowing that my body is back with you, and it's just like, but it's so that's kind of what you're saying, but without the toad.
So I've always had kind of some kind of really high intuition.
And connection to the spiritual
world. And then so you go through your teenage years, you go and play football, you go and play golf, you go and play cricket, you go and play tennis, you do the normal stuff. So you sort of disconnects at that stage. From about 12 years old, sort of disconnected from normal life. And then chased at 17 I got a job at Westpac, got into banking, and then the whole place into trying to get success through whatever
external
house, car, girlfriend, whatever you want to do. So I did all that kind of stuff, in my late teens and early 20s. But then I started really questioning life itself.
At what age are we talking now?
Probably 21, 22. I started doing martial arts, a bit of meditation. And I just ended up in this meditation course down in Lane Warren, and it was weird because I'm in the suit coming from work, and all these women around me going, "This banker," going, "What the hell are you doing here?" And it was just this search for discovery about, well, this wasn't really giving me what I wanted, and I sort of thought, well, there's got to be something else out there. So it was that place of self-discovery, and then it started to turn back on again. So then I ended up in a tarot course, ended up in a mediumship course, and then the intuition started to kick in again. And then that's when it started to really, go into the next phase of my life and really start to look at, what is success, what is, that sort of lifestyle look like, because I'm, one world I'm living 50-50, I'm living this banking life. Where,
that was gonna be my next question, is how, you're the very polar, different worlds.
Different worlds. And that's something I very much believe of why I do now, is because I play football. I, played very high level golf, I worked in banking, and that history in itself helps me help everybody else.
Yeah, gives you a unique set of understanding into how those people operate, because that's how you operated, as opposed to being, let's say you're a shaman, or you're a I don't know, more of a hippie-ish style. Let's say you grew up in Byron and that was your entire life. How maybe you do come out with these beautiful learnings from your journeys and whatnot, but how do you translate that to communicate that to support other people who are, I mean, we're looking at the city right now, who are working these types of roles?
Yeah, and it's so then that journey continued on for a while, where I was, doing that, and then I started doing readings on the side, started doing psychic stuff. Going to work on the weekend, I was doing readings for people, and it was just word of mouth kind of stuff. Long story short is, my ex-wife at the time was a musician. She was looking on Star Now, and she found this advertising for a psychic show. And it had already been on TV once before, called The One. And so she goes, "Oh, Greg, you should try out for that." And I think I was watching the cricket at the same time. This is your wife? This is my ex-wife at the time. And she said, "Oh, okay, try out for that." Anyway, so I just filled the forms out, thought nothing of it, put it in, and then get a phone call and saying, "Do you want to try out audition for it?" "Oh, okay, we'll see what happens." Didn't expect anything.
And this is a show it was to search for Australia's best psychic. Like a game, a game show in a sense, where there's a winner at the end and there's a bunch of exercises and. Had you watched it though? You hadn't watched it. You didn't even know what it was.
Hadn't seen it. So completely. I said it was I wasn't looking for it. I kept to myself in all the spiritual industry. By that stage, I'm going a bit around the circle here.
Okay.
I've done hypnotherapy, I've done coaching, I've done psychology, I've done counselling, all that kind of stuff.
When you say you've done it, you mean you're trained in it?
Trained all that stuff, right?
You didn't just get it done to you. You've gone and certified and...
Yeah, so there's probably a gap of about 6 or 7 years between the early 20s to where the one come up, right? So, and there's a lot of deep training about human performance and how the brain works and then the spiritual side of stuff and then the hermetic principles and the law of one and basic hypnotherapy and all that kind of stuff, right? But anyway, so we get to the point where, okay, the interview comes in and goes, okay, rightio, it was down here in Melbourne. And we rock up there and my wife was very smart at the time. She said, Greg, you have to play a character. You just can't rock up in just a normal kind of jeans and a T-shirt. They want a character to sell to the public.
Yeah.
She goes, put your best bank suit on.
If you're a banker, play the banker.
Play the banker.
That's the thing that I find so interesting. And sorry to cut you off, but yeah, that's a very interesting contrast. The banker that has these amazing astral projection, psychic things.
Yeah, and the hook worked. And so I got in there anyway, and we were in a place like this, right, just down in St Kilda Road. And they brought me in and so that they had the production cast there, head of talent, sat me down and said, all right, we're going to have someone come in, they're going to sit down in front of you, and you just got to read for them. And I said, all right, cool. Was there anything you want me to do? No, just bring him in. So anyway, so I'm sitting down, and then she sits in front of me. And I said, look, my name's Greg. Just want you to say yes or no. If it's no, just let me know, and I can explain a bit more, but just feedback off me as to what I'm getting through. She goes, yep, all good, right? And basic was over within about 20 seconds. I went, I've got a guy named Frank, I think it was, I don't know, something like that. Here.
So you was just so I understand, because I think I just missed a bit. You're doing a read for them. I thought you meant, because when I used to do modelling and I used to do auditions, I used to have to read a script. Yeah. You're not saying to read a script. You're saying do a psychic reading
on them. Oh. So they brought in someone from the public, one of their friends or something like that, and said, "Sit here."
I'm with you now. I'm thinking read a script like an actor's audition, that type of thing.
No. So they brought one of their friends in. They sat down and give her a reading. I said, "Oh, I've got someone here, got a male. He's just recently passed. His name's Frank. It's about the 50, and then there's a birthday around the 11th, something like that." Next minute, she goes pale white. The head of production looks at me and looks at her. She gets up and walks out. And I went...
Says nothing.
Because I don't tell you anything, right? They tell you jack shit.
Yeah.
And
because otherwise, I guess this is to play devil's advocate, and people who are watching who, we've just jumped into this psychic conversation because, more recently for me, but not so recently for you, have been on a spiritual journey. So it just seems like normal conversation, astral projection, psychic, this, that. But for people who are watching, they probably either have had experiences with psychics or positive or negative. But most people's most common thing is trying to psychoanalyze, did you know what you said because you picked up something else, or is it actually spiritually channeled? So what you're saying is they've given you no information, you're just sitting there, and then you go into whatever technique that you do to access that, and you've given her this information. She said nothing, she just walked out.
Right. and through the whole production, they don't give you anything, right? They don't tell you how well you've done, if it's good or bad anyway. So I didn't find out to the end of the production that her dad died a week before.
Oh, fuck.
And that's what had happened. And then basically the production team went, holy
okay. Let's get this weird banker guy who's a full-on psychic on the show.
So anyway, ended up on the show, ended up winning that, which was in itself a very enlightening experience, because living in that world of that sort of social construct of the celebrity world is very, very strange. It's weird as all hell.
Obviously when Matt originally told me about you, because I was we were just literally hanging out, we're talking about this, and he told me about ayahuasca, and I've never heard that Matt had ever done anything. I'm in my group of mates, knew what we're all, probably, you wouldn't pick the group to be spiritual, whatever. So we're just, hanging out. I think might have been having a ciggy or something at the time. And he's like, I was telling him about something else that I'd seen, and he said, "Yeah, I did ayahuasca." I'm like, "What? What are you? How did you? What did it?" And he told me about you, and so I mean, I went back and I was like, oh, let me suss in out. I went on to YouTube and I watched whatever clips are on YouTube. I actually wrote down that one of the questions I wanted to ask you about that show wasn't there like a murder mystery or something that was so, like what was some of the? I saw the one with you in the car
boat,
where you're finding like hundreds and hundreds of cars,
150 cars,
150 cars.
They hid someone in the boot of a car at a train car park. There's about 150 odd cars in this car park, and they gave you a bag with stuff in there. You didn't know what was in the bag, and basically you had to tune in and try and figure out where the person in the back of the boot was. And
which car in out of the 150 cars, and you had zero. You're all just dropped there, no information, and it's timed.
You got 15 minutes, something like that. And it's actually a really funny story because I was very fortunate to get very good advice throughout the show by a couple of people, and
off the show though, like friends or you mean a couple of people producers?
One of the contestants and a couple of producers, and so basically I went, I picked it up and I went bang, 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 and went straight there. And they're going, Greg, we're going to have to film that again because you have to ham it up a bit, like you're a bit confused, right? So good for TV.
Gotcha.
So I had to. So I went straight there and picked out the guy in the boot, right? And he obviously picked it up and it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty good. And they're all just going, holy shit, how'd you do that? They went, can we just film some more stuff because we have to make this TV ready because you going straight there is not really good for TV. So
we've got a whole 40-minute slot to fill here.
You've ruined it by 3 minutes, right? So, there was a surreal experience, but probably just to come back to the original question is that really gave me...
All right. Hope you're enjoying the podcast thus far. Just want to take a moment of your time to ask that in exchange for this amazing value and guests and hopefully some entertainment too, if you guys have liked it so far and you want to see more, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. At the end of the day, you can continue just to watch and all those type of things, but it does actually have an enormous impact on the level and quality of guests that I can have. And that just means better interviews for you guys. And it also means more impact in the world. The more men that can come across this channel and see this information and see the types of topics, the things that we're talking about, that can change another man's life. So if you've got value, pass it on. Pass on that value by hitting the subscribe button. With that said, guys, let's get back to the episode. Bye for now.
The impetus then to show people that you can be a normal person. You can have a very big corporate life. You can have success. You can have money, but you can also have a very spiritual background. And what spirituality has done for me is completely transformed my life because you realise, so much that you're taught and so much that you've told about who you are is actually not true. And that's so. What I help people do is to realise what's not true about them, help them unlearn the stories that they've picked up through life and then help them realize who they truly are in that divine spark that then opens up that abundance, that love, the passion, and then, whatever they want to create. So if you want to call me a spiritual coach or, an unlearner or whatever it is, it's sort of strange. Like I've got clients and they've sort of all my work is referral, right? And when they refer people on, they say, what does Greg do? And it's like, oh, I don't know, but it's magic shit.
Well, I think there's something special. I think there's a book by Eckhart Tolle called A New Earth, right? I'm not sure if you've read it, but he said, how could you talk about spirituality and like miracles, and he said, how could you think that with a man-made, like the sounds that we can make with our mouth could ever explain the miracles of the universe? And I think when you're working with spirituality, maybe it doesn't fit into a freaking box of a name that you're going to put up in your Instagram bio. I am a spiritual teacher. I'm a high performer. Like some things are a lot more holistic. Some things are a lot more deep and cannot be spoken into summing it up in a couple of words. So I think there's something beautiful about that. Yeah,
it's you don't want to label everything in this world but look, we just help people find their true self. We help them come home, and in that space, that's like most coaching, these days is about how much can we get? We Grant Cardone shit, like it's 10x, 100x stuff. It's doing things. We've got to become this different person. We've got to go from here to here, and we take linear steps to get here. And we do this step, we do this, and when we become this other person, then we'll be happy, right? That's a complete illusion. Humans don't work that way. You know, when we get to that point, we always want more. So success doesn't exist. You know, success in what we think right now when we get there, you can never attain that. But we're all chasing it.
Yeah.
You know, when I get this relationship, I will feel happy about myself. I will feel love. And it's, you know, a lot of the coaching world actually promotes that and teaches that because that's the way that normal standard psychology or, you know...
it's a non-spiritual approach because it's linear. It lives in the here and now.
Yeah. And then you tackle into the spiritual world and it's a game changer. Like, it's the people I work with and they just kind of go, this is magic. Like, this is so profound. It's not funny. My life has never, ever been so happy.
That's a great kind of segue into like this next little section here. So like walk us through for you, like who are the types of people that you work with? Are they bankers? Are they mums? Are they dads? Are they everyone in between? Like obviously it's through referral, but like someone who you work with, and what are the types of things that they're typically coming to you for?
Yeah, so they're usually high performers. So you got entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, C-suite people, kind of stuff. Right? They're already very, very high performing, right?
They're already quote unquote externally successful, going the old linear route, but they're realizing that that's not.
Well, they don't know. That's the thing, right? And the mastery of seeing an intuitive is that we can see things that most people can't. So you're hiring me to see something that you can't see that's not in the way of you getting to a place that you think you want to get to. And then I dissolve it, the illusion about what you're trying to achieve. So, and then I open up that realm of, well, who are you really? And that you are an infinite divine spark and being that's already got all this stuff. You just don't realize it. So it's sort of like we don't go forwards, we actually go backwards.
Yeah, you said the key word before, unlearning.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with one of my coaches about a year ago. He does breath work and spinal energetics and a bunch of other healing stuff. And we were specifically talking about this concept shifting away from personal development, which is like taking the person you are and developing that and flipping that on its head, which is what I think you're saying. You're saying it's not about personal development. It's about it's the opposite of that. It's actually about taking off. I think it was another person I heard talking about it. Imagine like a window that's covered in mud, and you're basically wiping that clean and going, "Hey, you're already perfect.
You're already there.
You're just all of the people in your life have told you there's all of these problems, and you've now identified with that.
Yep.
So it's about unlearning all those things and realizing you're already
that
powerful.
Correct, and that's the beauty about, because most of the work you do in the personal development space is about hard work and willpower and achieving, right? And what do I do? And that's one of the biggest misconceptions to people. I can see it when they go through their head and they have this aha moment, because the question the ego wants to ask is, what do I need to do to get to this point? And they want a process or an ice bath or a breathing technique or something to try and get to this place. And then you sort of explain this whole thing about samadhi to them, that, you know, even in that place, if you're fixated to a process or you're fixated to a sort of system to try and attain something, then you're still stuck.
Yeah.
So we help people sort of just realise there is nothing you need to do. It's a conversation in your head. It's a story. It's words. And once you realise the illusion of self and you realise the true self, then there is nothing to do. You just become.
Even as I am learning this in my life over the last 2 years, what you're saying, even as you say it, I'm thinking to myself, it is one of those concepts that maybe I'm wrong or maybe you see differently, but for me...
There is no wrong.
There you go. It's one of those things that is... Do you feel like... Let me rephrase that. Do you feel like that's something that... Well, let me share it a different way. How do you get people to let go of the holding on to all of the other things that go, hold on, that's too simple?
Yeah.
It's a hard concept, but it's like it's too simple. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm not articulating it in the way that I'm wanting to, but I'm sure that.
And this is where it takes, you know, a very skilled intuitive to ask the right questions at the right time, and it basically comes down to the conversation someone's having, and I will just ask, is that true? Is that actually really true about that situation or that conversation? And challenge them on the situation. And go further into that and dissolve
so
what
they can see for
about.
themselves how much bullshit it is.
And then what happens is, I don't heal. So this is the thing, is that they realise the only thing they need healing from is the conversation in their head. See, most people are trying to go to somebody to try and get healing. And it's why it never works. Because once you realize why you're trying, because if you're trying to get healing, then you're telling yourself that you're broken, which is then if you're broken, then it's a cycle. No matter how much amount of healing you do, you're never going to get there because the underlying thing is I need to get healed because I'm broken, or some kind of story inside your head that I need to go and do this to fix something. Because there is no problems in life. Problems don't exist.
It's just so walk us through, break this down for myself and the listeners. If that's what you're saying is not the way to do it, what is the way to do it?
Awareness.
Awareness is and so is there something that we could gift to the listeners or watchers right now that would help them take what we're saying and turn it into something that lands for them?
Yeah, so let's just say like you're going through a relationship issue at the moment, right? And you're in this place of, well, they're not doing this and they're not doing that and they're making me feel this and they're making me feel that, right? So one of the big things, and I will talk about, and I will credit people here because, you know, there's been some very, very big people who have taught me, well, not physically taught me, but, you know, sort of taught me.
You've learned from, yeah.
One of the big things is Sydney Banks. So the 3 principles. If people want to read that, that is a game changer in life.
What is it, a book?
Yeah, it's better watch on YouTube or videos, but it's the 3 principles, which basically means that there's 3 things that live in life, which is, you know, mind, consciousness, and thought. And then you've got the Hermetic principles on top of that. But we don't live in the experience of our circumstances. We live in the experience of our thoughts.
Yes.
And our thoughts are an illusion.
Yes.
So if you're in a relationship and you're saying this person's not doing this and this person's not doing that and this person's not doing this, right? You got to realize that person, you're not in a relationship with them. You're in a relationship with a conversation in your head about them based on what you think they are, based on what you think you are.
Yes.
So if you have insecurities and you're trying to get that person there to feel those insecurities and you're demanding on them to do things to make you feel loved, then you're shot. That's where most relationships sit these days is I'm in a relationship with Scott because he's going to make me feel better because I've got insecurities about myself, which I won't address. But if you love me enough, I'll feel better. And there's a lack of accountability. Like most people these days don't take any accountability for their lives. It's always someone else's problem, or someone's done this to me, someone's done it to me. So one of the first things I'll do with somebody is just go, are you 100% accountable for your life right now? And that's hard for people to take because most of society says something's happened to us. So most people just lack responsibility for their own life. They're stuck in this world of, you know, something's happened to me or someone's done something. And so what I would do with someone first up is like, well, okay, what's happened to you? Tell us what's happened through your life.
Yeah. What's
the story about that? What's that made you feel? And how do you live your life from that place?
What is the energy that's driving the behaviours?
If you think you're wrong, you're broken, and you're unlovable, what will you then do in your life to try and fulfill that? Because as we know, as within, so without. So our external life reflects the internal dialogue and internal feelings, and you know we must replicate that, right? So if our internal dialogue is insignificance, I'm unlovable, I'm worthless, we will create that on the outside.
Yeah, to confirm and
fulfill that experience, right? And most people don't get that. So once you sort of realise that that's step number 1, you become responsible for your life. You see where the story is, you see where the pattern is, and you become aware of that, then you can start to question it. And this is where the freedom comes from, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're not doing anything. I'm just asking you questions. And all of a sudden you see people start to have these breakthroughs because they're talking. And I don't talk a lot in sessions, but my clients do most of the talking. And I'll just ask questions and all of a sudden you'll think, oh, they've got it. And I'll just stop for a moment.
And now, as you're saying this, I'm thinking I want to make sure that there's a distinction between what you're doing isn't the same as talk therapy in a psychology session, because even though on the surface for people who are less experienced with this type of coaching, they would go, well, hold on a second, isn't that just what a therapist does? They just sit there, use.
A therapist will try and fix problems. right? So I'm a very firm believer in, some of my mentors have taught me the same thing, is that problems don't exist because it's an illusion of the mind again, right? So most therapists start with, what's the problem and how do I fix that? And they start trying to fix problems about, well, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. What I do is so different. It's light years different.
What just popped up then is that concept of like you said before, there is no problems. Everything is happening perfectly because when you start to zoom out and see the divine timing, and something I shared on the last podcast with this guy Luke, is I basically just shared that something that I say to myself and always teach my clients is that everything's happening for me, not to me, to serve me, not stop me. And there's always a redirection, never a rejection. Because when you understand that there's this divine kind of guidance, that thing that you said was bad or broken, that was actually, there's a lesson and a loop that needs to...
Yeah, look, it's easier said than done, right? Because if someone's going through some pretty difficult times, it does take courage to step into it and to collapse into it, right? And so that's also part of my guidance is to step into that, because a lot of people are spiritual bypass. I'm going to try and avoid stuff. They're all love and lighters, and they're all trying to bring in the white light and all that kind of stuff. But a
lot of the real stuff happens in the darkness.
But and even in that space where you've got people out there and they kind of go, well, just do some shadow warrior training and stuff like that, and they're making it about that, and the light serves the dark and the dark serves the light. It's like a coin, right? A coin doesn't exist without two sides. And the darkness is your friend as much as the light is your friend. But we still will make this stuff right and wrong.
We try to make it's almost like by doing shadow work, you're nothing against doing it, but underpinned in that, there's almost like that's bad and this is good. So we want to get rid of the bad.
Yeah, and it's helping people step into that and feel into it, and because that's part of why you're here, is to have the human experience and have the human emotion. To have the journey of what it is to be human.
I want to talk. That was one of my questions. I was actually almost going to start with that. I was not going to even do anything other than just say, Greg Riley, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? So I didn't say it before, but I'm going to say it to you now. Greg Riley, what is, in your opinion, from your experience, from all of the things that you've done and the journeys, of why are we here? What is the meaning of life? What do you feel we should be doing with this life?
That's it. Experience. That is it.
So if somebody's like having a labelled shit experience of life, is that what they're meant to be doing, or are they meant to be learning through that? Like, what's the nuance to that? Because
that's where the self-awareness comes in, right? Because it's all leading you back to you realising who you truly are.
Yes. Do you think that those people, let's say someone's having a shit time right now, for whatever reason, quote unquote, subjectively shit, right? The point that you were making there is that the shitness of that moment is actually bringing them back into meeting more of a spiritual side of themselves, because when people are going through stuff, that makes them internalize a bit more, rather than, like, if you're winning, if you're crushing life, you're distracted by winning. But when life kicks you in the dick and stomps on you, sometimes I believe
it hurts.
Yeah, my belief system is that that's happening for a reason, because you're out of alignment. It's bringing you back to a part of yourself.
It's not even happening for a reason. You're creating it.
So that goes back to what you were saying before.
You are the creation of your own life. So it's hard. Like, we're not taking away from the fact that people are going through some really, really, really hard times right now. But even in that space, if you can step back from it and have the self-awareness about it, then you can actually see the real story behind it. Because quite often, the reason why we're labeling this experience is because of the language we're using, because of certain other reasons. So that's the real part, where you have somebody who's in that highly intuitive space to sit with you and to see what you can't see. That's the skill set. To see the truth of the situation, which most people can't do.
I love that. And what I love about being on podcasts is I'm constantly remembering things as well.
Very, very, very few people do this. Like, it's such a unique skill set, and to have the intuition is such a powerful thing. But it's like,
does everyone have access to intuition? To different degrees.
And this is the way I say it, right? some people are born with a freakish nature, like playing the piano.
Yeah.
Mozart, Beethoven, all that kind of stuff, right? I can learn to play the piano,
Yes.
and I'll still be shit.
You'll never be. You'll build some skills in
Yeah.
it, but you'll never be Mozart.
I'll never be Mozart, right? So that's the way I sort of talk about it in that kind of way. Some people are just freakishly born with a high intuition,
Yes.
which they can tap into spaces that most of the population can't. Do we have the right to be able to have intuition? Yeah, everyone has, because that's where we come from. That's where we are. We're a spiritual being, right?
Yeah.
So there's just levels of it.
Yep. Let's talk about that, like the spiritual being stuff. Like there'll be people on the podcast, who listen to the podcast, who right now
I've asked how many drugs have we taken beforehand?
are not spiritual, right?
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of my clients aren't.
That's
Like,
what I know.
yeah.
That's why I'm kind of like, because I've gone from being very mindset and biohacking focused and business focused to then over the last couple of years becoming extremely spiritual. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, how do you find that people are in a tough position so they're more open to things? Like, how do you translate when you're talking about this? Or do you even talk really spiritual to your clients? Or do you just do the not just, but do you more communicate about these types of things?
Yeah, because, and again, that's a label, the spirituality kind of stuff. That's another framework, right? Just like religion. And if you try and label it as this, this path again, you're still
separate thing.
You're stuck in this world again, right? You're stuck in this world of, we've got to label something that this is the way, right? So I just sort of, people are stuck, right? They're stuck where they are, and they just can't get out. They've tried different things. They may have tried self-development. They may have tried personal development. They may have tried some ice baths and whatever it is, right? And they're still stuck. They're not getting where they want to get to, and they don't know how to. And they've been to see other people who have tried to get them to, well, you got to get to here, and in the way of that, of all these problems and stuff like that, and it's failing people. So I quite often see people where they're stuck. They're really stuck in life. And as I said, 99.9% of my work is referral based. So someone's seen me and gone, holy shit, what's happened to you? Oh, I saw this guy. What does he do?
Can't really explain
weird
it.
Shit. and it's like he just sits there and talks and listens to me. But he comes out with these pearls at times where you kind of just have this awakening. And there's this revealing, it's peeling back the onion to revealing an aspect of yourself that you get to do yourself. I don't tell you anything. It's this self-realization you get about, holy shit, I just made it all up.
Yeah, as I'm listening to what you're saying there, I'm reminiscing over moments in my own journey of that stuff of going, holy shit, this has been me the whole time. Like I was the one who had all of these beliefs and none of them existed.
Yeah. Well, most people are trying to work on themselves because, again, like, I've got to work on myself, I've got to fix myself. It's like, no, you don't. Like, you are where you are.
It just feels so, like, whilst I can reminisce about those things, I can still also reminisce about the feeling of going, I want something more. Like, Greg, help me, save me. Like, that feeling of that, what you're saying not being enough for it to. I want to be told a plan of what to do, and because that's
give me the steps.
Give me the steps, right?
Yeah.
Most people are coming and saying, "Hold on, Greg, but give us the steps, Greg. Give us the steps." And what you're saying is,
there is no steps.
There is no steps.
There is no step.
But that's so, for a lot of people, that's like, they can't, it's hard to fathom.
That's why I said before about the egos trying to grab onto this place where give me the framework or give me the things to do to get to that place that I want to get to. And that's why I gave up psychic readings, because I haven't done a psychic reading for God knows how many years, and I had stand up fights with people about stuff, because most people go and see a psychic because they predominantly want to know that life's going to be okay. But unfortunately, most people don't do anything about it. And I would just have these massive arguments with people about, well, why are you here? Because I can predict whatever you want. I can make you feel good if you want. I can sit here and tell you all kinds of shit to make you feel good.
You're going to be a millionaire. You're going to marry the hunk of your dreams or the wife of your dreams. That's what happens with
psychics. You go down here on an expo weekend and there'll be the same stuff being peddled out about, you're going to meet David in October. He's going to be your soulmate and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's all bullshit. It's all crap.
Do you think that there are some honest people in the psychic?
There's good intentioned people, right?
Yes.
Like, there's people who are very good intentioned.
Yeah.
But they have zero clue about how the human mind works, how humans work, and how this whole thing's constructed this reality, right? And if they were really speaking to these powerful guides, and the psychic industry hates my guts, and I know that, right? I'm not saying things that they've heard me say this multiple times on radio before, right?
Yeah.
That most of them are useless, and most of them are doing a disservice because you're telling people stuff they want to hear when reality you should be telling them what they need to hear.
My question is, do you think that they're flat out lying?
No.
You don't think? Okay, so you're not
good intentioned people, right?
So like walk me through how does that work? Like how do they get to a place where they're not lying?
Well,
and they've got good intentions.
That's the thing; they just don't know. That's the awareness.
So
part,
right? So let's say they've got psychic abilities. Some of them,
Yep.
real psychic abilities,
Yep.
and they're downloading things. But then what? They're downloading their own projections.
Quite possibly, yeah. Or trying to make our need to please people is so huge, right? Because a lot of these people they need to, they're running a business, right? So if I make my client feel happy and I tell them what they want to hear, then they'll think that I'm good and then they'll come back to me, right? But if you're a psychic who's going, listen, love, look, you're not going to meet Dave in October because you've come from 3 broken relationships. Your last guy that you checked his phone every hour because the previous one cheated on you. You need to go back and do some self-work because, when you were younger, you were abused and your dad left your mum when you were 15,
Yeah.
and of course, no one wants
and that's why you keep it, like you said before, you're creating your own reality. So if this is what you believe that you deserve, because that's what you told yourself and then you keep manifesting that.
You keep creating that person in your life, right? And you keep validating that because you keep attracting the same person.
So you need to unlearn these stories and beliefs.
But nobody wants to. They want to go and see a psychic to magic pill it and go, all right, without any work on your own end, I'm going to meet somebody who's going to save me, right? So, look, they're good intentioned people. They want to help, but they're not necessarily doing the right thing. Because if they understood how humans work, spiritually and psychologically, they wouldn't do or say half the shit that they say. But we have this thing about, I went and saw a psychic and it was so good, it was so fantastic. They told me this, they told me that. And they walk away going, that was so fantastic. And nothing happens. But for that moment in time, they've had this ego kind of dopamine hit that life's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because most people are coming because life is not okay.
The only experience for me, I'm coming from a place where I thought all of this stuff, spirituality, quote unquote, psychics, I thought it was all a load of rubbish.
Vanessa told me that.
Absolute load of rubbish. I really thought that it was just bullshit. And then, of course, I met my wife, and I remember thinking to myself, I really like this girl.
Yeah.
I like the way she makes me feel.
Yeah.
I can see. I feel I was just learning about intuition. Then I'd made a big kind of proclamation or declaration to myself that I was going to listen to this other voice, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd listened to it once and blah blah. And my intuition kept saying, just another day, Scotty. Just another week. Because my ego's going, how is this spiritual girl who's talking about freaking
angels
and all these other realms, and she's filling out something to find out which past life thing. I'm like, I'm in a place where I've let go of judging people.
Yeah.
At that point, I'd done a fair bit of healing or awareness work or whatever you want to call it. I had just had a lot more awareness at the time. So I wasn't judging her for it, but I was also thinking, is this going to be functional for me?
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, the intuition just saying, just keep going. Just trust.
Yeah.
Just trust. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So I just did another day, another week. Sometimes it would be just do another day. Sometimes it would say just give it another month or whatever the term was that it knew that I could kind of handle. And then obviously here we are with a child and very happily married. And, I am like I said, a believer and it has truly, changed my life.
Yeah. It does, doesn't it, though? I mean, it's the thing is that we have this constant search to try and better ourselves, and when you realise the truth of what's going on, and this whole thing is a simulation, it's a game, mate. This shit ain't real, right? When you realise that, then that's when things start to break down and break through. None of this shit's real, mate.
I reckon, and I'm not going to go on here and tell everyone that they should do it because I don't think that they should. Personally.
I think I know where you're going with this, but yes, probably agree.
For me, definitely, I had a certain level of I was open up until I did ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I was open to the idea that I'm not going to be so arrogant to think I understand everything about the universe, or even if there is a universe and a God and all this. That was my stance. Is even though my wife's into this stuff, I do have a spiritual connection, and I don't try to understand. Is it Jesus? Is it God? Is it this? All I know is that this is a voice inside me that I know is not just my head.
Yep.
And I've practiced this. I've put faith in this, and I know for certain this is something. And I don't need to explain that or label it.
Yep.
And with my wife and all the stuff that she does, I'm not going to judge her. And all I'm going to say to myself is that it's okay. It's possible for me to not have all the answers. But then that's as far as I could kind of get.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching Gaia and stuff like that. And I'm just still thinking, oh, come on. This guy's talking about these other dimensions and stuff like that. Then I started to watch, of course, things like Joe Rogan and Mike Tyson talking about the toad.
5-MeO, yeah.
5-MeO. And so now it's, I hate to admit it, but they've kind of made it a little bit cool. So now my ego's open to it a little bit more.
There's a renaissance in plant medicine, and that's got its own problem at the moment, right? But like you said, it's not for everybody, and it's something that's not the salvation for people either, right? People kind of think that if I go and do plant medicine, it's going to fix me, and it's such the wrong way to look at stuff.
Well, that was kind of my point. Is number one, I don't think everyone should do it. And number two, that thing there, that's what made me open, because I had such an experience of going to different places and all these different things. But definitely that for me was just a super dose of truth and awareness. That's what dissolved. It didn't heal me. It didn't fix me. It didn't do any of those things. All it did was expose me to my own lies.
Yeah.
To the point that it was so uncomfortable to realize the bullshit that I had told myself, and everything in my life. I don't want to say it was my fault, but it was my fault.
Yeah.
And so the last 18 months has just been a huge transformation from letting go of all the things, and of course becoming a lot more spiritual because of that experience. Do you think certain people have to have an experience like that to get to a place where they can believe in these types of things? Do you think you can get there?
You can get there without it. Yeah, you definitely can. Look, 7 out of 10 of my clients don't do plant medicine. Very few do. It's a initiation. You have to be ready for it. It is. If you're not ready for it, it will fuck you.
It's definitely something. Like somebody asked me, "Hey, I heard you did this. I want to do it too." And I had a couple of conversations with it. And I said, you've done no work on yourself.
Yeah.
You want to jump into this?
Yeah.
The integration of this is the deepest, most confronting thing that you could possibly. I wouldn't recommend to anyone who hasn't done years and years of at least some other work.
You have to have some kind. Look, it will strip you bare. It is something that you have to be really prepared for, and like you said, integration afterwards is where all the real work starts.
Yeah,
it is not for everybody. You have to be really prepared to dissolve yourself.
It's been the pros of, say, your Joe Rogan and your thing is, I think
Aubrey Marcus.
Yeah, Aubrey Marcus and Mike Tyson. Yes, it has. I think that it has brought it a bit more mainstream, where I think it can do lots of good. But at the same time, if we're going through the mindset of thinking that you're just going to have this magic ayahuasca session, and now you don't have to, a bit like the psychic thing, that we're looking to be saved.
Yeah.
The ayahuasca is not going to save you. It's going to be a truth serum that will expose every single thing that you've been avoiding. If you don't have any groundedness to be able to hold all the stuff you've been hiding from, well, you're in for a rude awakening.
For a very, very difficult time. It's a mirror that you can't unsee. But once you break through into that moment, I've had experiences of just being in this pure oneness of love, and I'm just I've got so much to give here. Take this shit. There's more behind you. You've got no idea how unlimited this shit is, right? The amount of love and presence you have in that moment of realizing who you are. There's nothing like it. It's profound. It is red pill, blue pill. You can't unsee shit then, and then you can't go back to a lifestyle of what you used to do. And that's the thing, right? It will slap you, but it calls you, right?
Yes.
For those of you who want to actually travel down that path of using psychedelics to unlock part of you, there's an invitation there if you want to take that, but you have to. It's reverence. It's sacredness.
Yes.
If you're doing this to party, or you're doing this to try and get your rocks off or not be serious about it, it will fucking slap you, and you might not come back from that. And that's the thing. And
it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not something you should fuck around with.
Absolutely not. It is a sacred ceremony to.
It's an initiation is the word
Complete
that
initiation.
that the experiences that I had both on the Toad and the initiation is like the ultimate word that kind of comes through. Both times I felt like I knew in that moment I'm being initiated.
And the shit you see is like, it's so weird. Like it's like I do it, and when Vanessa goes, "What happened?" It's like, oh, it's too hard to explain. It's like, I was talking to a cat for about an hour, and it was talking back to me, and like I've had moments where I've been in there. I've had Egyptian hieroglyphics up in front of me, and I've been able to read this stuff in ceremony. I've been able to see energy. I've been able to see the frequencies of the other dimensions on top of each other. Yeah. I've had moments of being in pure oneness with creation itself, like pure the struggle.
You're fully
of the ego
tapped into the actual.
I've
vibration.
seen how reality is created in spaces, right? And it's profound.
There's an expansion when that happens that, like, of course you go there. And when you're in it, it's like it's real, right?
Yeah.
When you come back to matter, to this 3D, world or whatever, yes, you're back.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are parts of you, I will speak for myself, my experience was that there are parts of me that have the ability to still go there. Meaning, like when I did breath work or I did like the spinal energetic type stuff, I would have a certain level of experience.
Yep.
Since then, when I go into that, the experience that I have when I do these other practices, it's so much more powerful because I feel like I've activated these other, like a portal that means I'm more able to kind of tap into those other.
And that's
that other world.
That's the important part because it's a gateway for you then to come back and then integrate in your life where you do meditation, you do have presence, you do sort of sit there and just kind of realize that how do I integrate this into my day-to-day life with the spirit of the plant and the indigenous cultures and all that kind of stuff. And there's so much wisdom in nature that can unlock, because we're all searching for happiness, but happiness doesn't exist. Right, we're all trying to grab onto this thing that we can't grab onto. It's a thing we're trying to achieve or attain. Like I want to be happy. Well, same like success. We're trying to attain this stuff. We're trying to get this stuff, but it's a presence. It's a place. And once the plants unlock that you kind of stop looking for success. You stop looking for... But it doesn't mean you're suddenly do nothing.
Like you're still someone who... like
very high functioning, very high performing.
Yeah.
But we're not doing it to try and fill a hole. We're doing it for the experience of itself.
Yeah, exactly the point. Because someone who's maybe watching going, okay, great, so I'm just going to...
I have no goals. Like I have some motherfucking goals.
I'm going to have no goals. I'm going to end up in a monastery up in the mountains.
But that's not the point, right? Because if you're sitting in a cave nowhere and just meditating all day, that's not the point. You've checked out.
The point is to have to experience life in its fullness, and that means the light, the dark, and everything in between. But I relate to what you were saying there in terms of I still have huge goals that I want to do, but the energy behind them is completely different. The way I operate on the journey to get there. The biggest thing that came through on the Toad, very different to the ayahuasca experience, because the Toad the ayahuasca I remember everything. Right, with the Toad,
it's because you had half your clothes off with the ayahuasca. That's
with the Toad, the two experiences I had was the flipping over and being initiated with this Indian tribe. And I can still hear they had these huge feathers. And I can hear the wind and the da in the background. This chanting. It was crazy. But the other one I remember was just nothing but white light. Literally the presence of nothing but love. And in that moment, realizing how loved that I was, and then after that came through as I'm coming back, it gave me like a little token of kind of wisdom.
Yeah.
And it basically just said that stop being in such a rush to get to the destination. Everybody's read a billion books. Everyone's heard 1,000 podcasts where everyone says it's not the destination, it's the journey. But the difference between knowing it and having the experience of the knowing of that thing, after that moment, I realized, as an example, we were looking at buying a new car. I'm looking at a freaking Range Rover, right? and I'm like, I don't need that car. Mike, there's nothing wrong with my car. Maybe one day I will get it. And there's nothing wrong with having a Range Rover. I'm not poo-pooing it. But what I'm saying is there's no rush. And same thing with with my business. I was rushing so fast to get there. Why? Because the energy underneath was I'm not enough until I get it.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like I am enough. There's nothing wrong with me.
But
I'm here to experience the journey of getting there. It's
a lot
not
of high functioning people, that's exactly it. Like, they are high functioning from a place of insecurity, which is why they're high functioning, right?
That's where the absolute obsession of drive comes from.
That's where exhaustion comes from, and that's where burnout, and that's where your collapse comes from.
100%. Let's go into that a bit, because I relate to that, and I'm taking a stab by the types of level of people that you say that you work with. That would be like a prevalent issue. Would I be correct in saying, like, things like burnout and maybe midlife crises, that types of things?
Exhaustion, relationship falling apart. I've just got caught cheating on my wife, all that kind of stuff. You know, it is a very it's a very unique kind of area, because, you know, from the outside, everyone sort of sees you as very high performing and very successful and very much, I want to have your life. But then you get into them and you realise that they're struggling.
They're suffering.
They're suffering, and they've got to work harder, and they're in this high performing jobs.
It's a steam train that can never stop.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it's so they're sort of coming to me to have this other insight about, okay, well, this isn't working. I've got what everyone says is success.
Yes, external.
I've got all this external stuff, but I am so empty. I'm so devoid. I'm so depressed. I'm struggling. I'm stuck, and I've tried the other stuff to try and get to a place, but I just don't know how to get there. And that's the thing, is they're still trying to get somewhere.
Do they? I mean, maybe, I'm sure it's different for everyone, but do you find that after working with you, do they continue? Is it more likely that they continue what they're doing, but just doing it from a different place? Or do you find that they make huge pivots, realizing, hey, look, I might be running a multi-million-dollar company and it's not in my heart anymore. And the reason why I was doing this in the entire place was because of X. Like, do they go and change things, or do they just operate and change the way they do things?
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different.
Like, you can have somebody who's a CEO of a company and will go, and their whole drive was about, you know, money, about more money, and it's like, but at what cost?
Exactly. To your health and to your relationships and to your own self.
Yeah. And you've got, like, I've a story I put out in my email a while ago about, I worked with this squillionaire who basically was successful because when he was 15, 16, he was rejected by a girl, and the guy who played football got the girl.
Yeah.
So his whole drive to be successful was to get the girl who was hot.
Yeah.
Now, he got the girl who was hot, but he's a 4 out of 10.
Yes.
And she's a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So,
objectively, from a look perspective, but
right? And he realised why he's miserable, right? Because, you know, he never had any security because everyone knew that she was with him for the money.
Yes.
And, you know, everyone knew she was slept with other guys,
right? That's the lie. That's the elephant in the room that is not. It's like deep, and he just buried it down there.
Yeah. So if you want to bring it back to something, is about and it's, you know, the whole Simon Sinek stuff, which you know took from somebody else, right? You know, why are you doing this? You know, what's driving you to do where you are right now? Tell me about what inspires you. Why is this important? And then and it's different, right? Because I deal with most people who are 40 or over.
Yeah.
And I don't really do a lot of people who, you know, deal with them when they're in their early 20s, because they have different things. At that stage, you have different values. You want to drive for certain things. You want to be successful. You want to do a shitload of drugs and live life, right?
Yeah,
So most of my clients 40 and above, because they've got different values, they're looking at different aspects of life. They've changed. They've gone and become successful and found it's been somewhat, you know, soul destroying, right?
Yes.
So they're looking at life from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So, you know, we sort of get to the point of, well, what is important to you? And that's the first question you want to have is what is important to you and what kind of lifestyle do you want to have?
If you didn't have to keep the rodeo show going and you could pretend like just for a moment you didn't have a wife, you didn't have kids, you had no responsibilities and you could do anything you would want to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, well, great, that's where we start.
Correct. Yeah, and it's just reassessing that stuff and what are the real core beliefs that you've got that make you, experience this aspect of joy and happiness and freedom and peace and fulfillment and success and passion and all that kind of stuff. And we can get in this whole place about, some of the men I deal with, and this is a complete tangent.
Do you do men and women?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was usually a lot of women, but a lot of men
It was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. But a lot of men, and this is how wide-ranging what I do is that a lot of men have dysfunctional sexual relationships with their partner because a lot of men have been taught sex through porn and they lack intimacy. So I'll introduce men to tantric stuff, to presence, to breathing. To be able to have that touch, right? And some of the wives have gone, don't know what you do with my husband. It is the best sex I've ever had in my whole fucking life. I'll just pay you whatever you want. Can you keep fucking doing it, right? So because the men are craving for this connection, but they don't know how because we've all been brought up in porn, which is abuse, right? And so many women have been abused in sexual relations. To be able to teach a man to be that strong
masculine presence, but without
the alpha male bullshit, right? But to be that real strong where I'll take you on a journey and I will get inside you and I'll grab your soul and I'll do it without even touching you. Like I've had experiences
this is some interesting. Okay, not that everything's been interesting.
We can do a whole episode on men and sexual stuff, right? Because that's one of the big dysfunctions these days. Is men do not know how to have sex.
Well, like complete
no clue.
Like
none.
I sat here and spoke with the relationship coach that helped me basically, manifest my wife through realizing, okay, I took responsibility.
Yeah.
I was creating the reality of my partners and I realized that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I want to, change the way I do things. Long story short, definitely I had dysfunction in every relationship. I'd had dysfunctional sex relationships, either sexless after a while because for whatever reason, or insecurities, or this or that. And I think this is a big issue. There's a lot of marriages, like obviously I used to work, as a PT and health coach and whatever else prior to doing the online coaching stuff. And so all my clients were 40 to 75.
Yeah.
And so like they would constantly joke about not getting sex or getting sex for their birthday. And I remember saying to them, I'm not going to have a marriage like that. I can fucking tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And they were like, you wait, everybody does. And I'm like, that's not going to be my reality. I just refuse to believe that. Like, I don't care what I have to do. Like, I'm not going to have that. Long story short. So let's dive into that a little bit because I think this is some deep stuff. So tantric stuff, breathing, like what do you feel like is the
performance? Number one, we have to perform. Men have got this thing about they've got to be the biggest, hardest, and the best she's ever had.
Yeah.
So there's a huge amount of performance anxiety with men, which is why they're also popping blue pills like they're going out of fashion, right? Which is in itself a whole other issue, right?
Yes.
Men, and this is the amount of time I have this conversation with men, it's like, I didn't know that. 80% of women do not orgasm through penetration sex.
Yeah.
They don't. Now, 8 out of 10 men don't know that.
Yes, wow.
Women orgasm through many other methods, but a lot of it's not through penetration. So if your wife you're the best I've ever had, she's probably faking it if it's, penetration sex, right? Because no one talks. No one has a conversation. The first part is to go.
Because you just want to believe. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have for most people around sex because you'd rather not know if you were shit. Do you know what I'm saying?
The point. And that's what we try and help is
it's very confronting to think I'm bad at sex and my wife isn't happy.
Yeah, correct.
Sexually.
Yeah.
So we just fuck it away.
First conversation is like, let's just have an open conversation about performance and what you like and what you don't like and what's your history.
Because that takes vulnerability. If you're doing it with you, that's one thing. I'm saying the conversation with the partner takes a lot of vulnerability.
This is something I would highly recommend doing with a third party.
Okay.
Like if you're doing it yourself, you're going to screw it up, right? Because especially when you go in the path, and especially for females where there has been sexual abuse before, where, a guy might like a certain style, but that for her has been an abuse in the previous versions of relationships,
either
right?
meaning that physical or emotional, like guilt and
all that kind of stuff, right? So
shit like that.
It is a exploration of yourself, and it's a huge topic because 90% of relationships do not talk about sex. So it's one having this thing about, okay, well, where did you learn sex from? Do you know anything about the female anatomy, right? Do you know anything about the female anatomy? 90% of guys don't, right? So that's one. Let's teach you about.
Step one.
This is the vagina.
This is the clitoris.
And that's the thing is, it's like and it's going, okay. Well, to your partner, what do you like and what you don't like? Because everyone's different. So if you are doing something like a bit of clitoris stimulation, right? Some women like it fast, some like it harder, some like it softer, some like it not at all, right? And that's without that conversation, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what happens. People don't talk. So it's having that conversation about, okay, let's try this, let's try that. Has this worked for you? Has not worked for you? Then the man we get rid of performance. It's about exploration.
Yeah.
It's about trying things. It's about screwing something up so badly that you're going to go, well, that was bad, wasn't it? It's like, it was fucking horrible.
Something that just popped into my head as potentially, I think, another thing that probably contributes to all this is two-prong, and I'd love to hear your commentary on it. Number one, just people are just tired and exhausted, and they're coming in, they're trying to feel good, let off a load, rather than have, like, if the goal, depending on what your unconscious or unconscious goal, if your goal is that you're just really horny and, you're thinking to yourself, if I don't shag my wife, I'm going to cheat or I'm going to jerk off or whatever the thing is. So it's like the energy that you're going into, that's step one. So there's a lot of like, exhaustion there. The other thing we already spoke about, which is like the vulnerability. But the third thing is how receptive she is going to be to that, depending on the past history of the couple, right? Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned one there about stress is a killer. Stress is a killer for relationships, right? So if you're in a high performance, and this is why, again, working with high performers, if you're in a high performance job or you're an athlete's high performance and you're in this highly stressed environment, is a killer for your sex life.
Yeah, not just for your libido, but just for the relationship, because it stops you from, you're in your head instead of in your heart most of the time, and that's what requires for the intimacy.
Yeah, correct. And then so that's a blocker in one. But sex is not something, and especially
to be rushed.
And this is, and I'm probably going to upset a lot of people, right? Men and women are different.
Yes.
Right, we are not the same. Men are visual, women are emotional.
Yeah.
Right. So for men, we see
and
girl,
you shouldn't. I just want to say you shouldn't be like men shouldn't be shamed for wanting the visual stuff, and women also, in the same token, shouldn't be ashamed or judged for wanting more of that emotional side.
And so we've got to understand how the dynamics between the couple work, which just comes down to a conversation. And then you've got, like I said, trauma about both men and women, because these days it's coming out that a lot of men have been abused in previous relationships, or by people, when they're younger, childhood and stuff like that. And then you've got, again, I'm going to upset a few people, by saying this though, but the dating these days and the ability of having sex on tap is stopping us from pair bonding. The more partners you have, the less ability to pair bond you do have.
Walk me through that a little bit.
So,
what is pair bonding?
Pair bonding is the ability to have a long-lasting relationship and to connect with another person. But if you're having, 30, 40, 50 partners, then your ability to actually have that, especially through a sexual experience, is diminished, because sex becomes something that's kind of transactional.
Yeah. Is there I've heard that, I don't know how true this is, but just like every time you have sex with somebody, like from a spiritual perspective, you're
energetic
imprinting. Do you think that if you the more like, do you think there's an element of that? Is that even true?
Yeah, and look, there's always rules to the game, right? But we're talking generalities.
Generalities, yeah.
Right. I went to a tech school, right? Yeah. So, and I can only just say from what I've experienced from my clients as well too, right? So I know there's a big thing these days that people should have sex with whoever they want to. If they want to have a body count of 100, then they can have 100, right? So be it, right?
Yeah.
Your
prerogative.
Right? You can do that, right? I'm just saying from my perspective, what I've seen is people with high body counts have naturally had issues with pair bonding because sex has become somewhat transactional. And, that in itself is, problematic in that state, right? But, yeah, and it's
Is
there
it
is
the
a
same
revolution.
for male and female, do you think? Some people say, well, the man, he's meant to procreate. He's supposed to shag as many girls as possible. I'm not saying I subscribe to that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that's what some people say. He's supposed to make as many babies as possible, and yet she's supposed to be, these are pretty old school thinking,
Yeah.
but just I'm curious what your thoughts are on male and female in that respect.
Look, there are aspects between male and female that does affect each sex different.
Let's say a man, I'll give you an example. Let's say a man, her body count might be, I don't know, let's just say it's 5, right?
Yeah.
5 and his might be 15. Well,
Yeah.
okay, that's not, he probably has a larger capacity
Yeah.
to still pair bond.
Yes. Correct.
But at the same time, if you're getting up into over a span of like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 partners. I spoke to a girl the other day. She said she's got young kids, and she said that some of her kids, like in the early 20s, their friends have 40, 50
Partners, yes.
no, not partners, but,
Body count.
body count is the
Yeah.
word, yeah. And then early 20s.
Yeah, and that's going to cause some issues later in life. Like it really is, especially from a long-term committed
That's a lot of-
relationship. That's a lot, right? And look, it sounds judgy and all that kind of stuff. And I get, well, people might come back and say, well, who are we to judge, whose body counts what? But we're talking about
There's a difference
long-
between judging and just talking on the reality of situations.
Well, again, you look,
Depends on
statistically, you'll find that people with higher body counts have less. The length of relationships or successful relationships is very low.
Yeah. Is that you're talking like from statistically speaking?
Yeah. So I know we got here on a tangent, but yeah. So
We just started talking about high performers,
performers.
stress, and then we're just talking about
so there's a big capacity for the work that I do to have a revolution in some kind of intimacy, because we're all looking for that. We're all looking for that connection with another person, and I'm finding that a lot of people's intimate relationships are highly dysfunctional.
especially in the high performance space, because you're putting so much worth. I mean, everything
Yeah.
you're saying, you're preaching to literally like this is the journey that I've just been on
Yeah.
over the last 10 to 15 years, and the last 2 years
Yeah.
going through that moment of going, wow, okay, I've made some financial success. I've got a lot of the things that I've been searching for externally, but I'm not happy.
Yeah.
There's something missing, and then going through more of a journey of like letting go, surrendering, allowing, trusting, and
Which is why I come back to that question with clients is what's important. Like really what is important.
that's why we're on the podcast. I
Yeah.
literally sat down and did that of like, hold on, what would I do for free? Like,
Yeah.
and instead of like before it was like efficiency and doing everything online. No, I want to meet Greg in person.
Yeah.
I want to connect with him.
Yep.
And I think the connection was a big piece that for me was missing. Like
Yeah.
actual friendship connection, human depth of connection, not just surface look at me, Scotty connection,
Yeah.
but the depth of really seeing people and being seen myself.
Yep.
And then also the intimate side. So you said that's a really common thread for.
Yeah, look, and most people beyond high performers, like having a very highly functional, intimate, and we talk about intimacy because as far as sex is on average 5 minutes for a lot of people.
Yes.
At the top range, right? Everyone thinks that people having these long 40-minute sessions doesn't exist, right? For most people it's between 3 and 5 minutes, but intimacy is how you get up in the morning. It's texting your wife, telling her she looked hot today. It's walking past her, tapping her on the arse, and just walking off.
Her
And
looking at you and you feeling that
it's this seduction,
desire.
this play between each other,
Yeah.
right? That gets this desire going. And you got to constantly reinvent that. Like why relationships work at the start is because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're having this play between two people, and then you get 15 years into the marriage, and it's like, no, fuck you, right? It becomes, you stop playing, you stop experiencing, you stop exploring, you stop trying to seduce each other.
Yeah.
And that's where we get people back into is that place of just, playing with each other, toying, having this push-pull kind of thing where you get this, power and this energy back where you go, okay, right there, the spark, it's back.
And you're saying that the starting point, if we were to turn this conversation into some sort of like, again, I hate to say it, but actionable steps.
Yeah.
besides the stuff that you shared before about probably unpacking and unlearning certain things, just specifically relating to intimacy, are there things that you recommend for people
Make a list.
to do?
Make a list. Things I would like to do, things I like to receive.
Yeah, gotcha. Things I would like to do, and then that's good.
Yeah, and you will find that most people don't have these weird outlandish.
They don't necessarily want to suck your toes or
it's something like
have sex in public.
I want to have a bath with you and just hold you, put some candles on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or it might be for a guy. I love it when I'll give away a trade secret here. And Vanessa's going to kill me for this. Right?
Trade secret.
I love having my head massaged.
Yeah.
If you want to put me to sleep,
Yeah.
massage my head. That for me is like, holy shit, that's so
Yeah.
good, right? And
It's not some outlandish. Mind you, if you've got some kinky stuff, like
Go for it,
write that
right?
down too. Doesn't mean you're always going to get it. But
Hey,
she won't. You'll never get. We'll tell you what you won't get is you won't get it if you never ask,
Yeah,
or at
correct.
least if you don't write
And
it
look,
down.
I've got a couple some old clients, and they won't mind me sharing this, right? They dress up in anime.
That's like the Chinese,
Japanese.
Japanese.
And the cartoon stuff, right?
There
And
you
that
go.
puts, too many people have watched 50 Shades of Grey and think that kind of that bullshit, right? And if you like that stuff, go for it, as long as it's not hurting anybody, right? But a lot of people just don't talk about it. So it's like, make a list of things that you would like to try or experience.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff, I'm not trying that, but it's about effort. It's about try. It's about, because if you're in a space where that maybe make you feel a bit uncomfortable, well, you're going to path, or why is it uncomfortable? Is it because of trauma, or is it because you just don't want to do it?
Yeah.
So it's about really making
Going
an
a
effort.
layer deeper.
Yeah, and just going, well, I'm going to do that because I love you, and I'm going to try that, and I don't know, and maybe, push my boundaries, but I'm going to at least experience that, with you, right? And it's sort of this gift, right? So it's one, being able to sit down and to talk about what you like and what you don't like, and when you say things, this is what I don't like, you might say, well, I don't like this because of this.
Yeah, don't just
And if you
block
say,
it off.
Yeah, and don't say, well, you've done this and you've done that. And it's like,
I always do this for you, but you never do that for me.
that's a quid pro quo. So you get to a place where it's this transactional kind of thing, then, whatever, right? And that's also, it helps you de-stress as well too, right? So, for me, like I'll give Vanessa's feet a rub, right? Because it's grounding for her is really good, right?
Yep.
Because having 3 kids under 12,
and
or,
it's safe,
3 kids
it's
under
safe,
8.
gentle touch.
Well, she lived with me as well too, right? So
Yep.
that's a nightmare in itself, right? so having be able to massage her feet, to ground her, brings her back into her body when she's been taking care of 3 kids and me.
She's up in her head. You've got to do this. I've got to do that. She's tick, 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 tick.
And there's the intimacy part, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm giving her my time, I'm giving her my presence. Yeah. And then
And affection.
affection, right? And that then starts to stimulate stuff. And I'm doing it like, and most guys...
You're not going there and complaining, saying, hey, we haven't had sex in 3 weeks, da-da-da-da,
Correct.
come on, hurry up. Or like,
But the other thing
you're
is...
not complaining.
Most guys actually do things because they want it to end in sex. So it's being able to say, look, I'm going to give you this, but...
With no intention.
With no intentions. There's no game at the end of this where I expect to have sex at the end of this. It's like, I'm giving this to you because you deserve it. Because you've had a hard day. I'm going to put a bath on for you. I'm going to shut the door. There's a glass of wine there. There's some candles on. And there's your music. Don't come out for 2 hours. I don't give a shit what you do, right? And in that space that, you're not doing it to try and get laid.
Yeah, you're doing it because you love her. You see the work that she does and you want her to feel beautiful. You want her to relax. You want her to feel...
And where do most people have insecurities? I'm not seen and I'm not heard.
Yeah.
And even if you do that for them...
It's an action of acknowledgement.
Correct. And then that opens up the heart, and then all of a sudden things just naturally happen from that space. But men have fucking zero clue.
Well, a lot of times it's like, what can I... Yeah, it's doing something for what I can get out of it, which is not actually thinking about you. It's actually thinking about me.
Correct.
Well, that's not love.
Yeah.
That's
Transactional again.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can do a whole podcast on just
Because I
sex.
know you. I saw you online switch up some of your type of content, which, from my perspective, was more around relationships. I know you're doing a lot of coaching around with women around relationships, if I'm correct. And then I saw it shift maybe more into more of the high performance stuff.
It's just sort of I talk about what comes up in sessions, right? And what I do is sort of very broad ranging because people's lives are very complex, right? So I sort of just go with, okay, well, this is sort of coming in themes at the moment. So I will use what's happening in my sessions to sometimes put content out there based on certain things. So, so
it wasn't like you were marketing to be,
No.
I'm in one way, I'm helping women do X, Y, Z. You're just, these are the people that I'm manifesting as into my coaching at the moment. And that's therefore the content reflects that. And then it just naturally shifts.
Yeah. And then so like now talking about that the relationship doesn't exist with the other person, the relationship that you think you've got with the other person exists inside your head. You know, and that's when people sort of realise that because most people think that I'm in a relationship with Scott, that I'm in love with Scott and the relationship is over there with you. But that's not true.
The relationship's in my head. It's my perception. Yeah. It's me perceiving how you perceive me through my own perception.
And correct. And based on how you feel about yourself.
Yes. Yes. So
Because if you're feeling shit about yourself, how do you perceive the other person?
that brings me to two things.
This is the rabbit hole. This is why this stuff is so profound. This is why it runs rings around personal development, runs rings around normal psychology models. It is game changing. It's freaky. It's so fucking good. It's not funny.
There's a movie which I'm sure you probably would have watched because I watched some really corny movies and I like it. Don't judge me. There's a movie. It's like a chick flick, right? A comedy with a girl named Amy. I don't know what Schumer. Amy Schumer. It's called I Feel Pretty. Do you know it? Long story short, for the listeners or watchers who don't know it, she wants to be beautiful. She wants the life. She wants the accolade, whatever. She goes into a spin cycle class. She smashes her head, and she wakes up and she still looks exactly the same. She's slightly chubby. She has not changed externally to everybody else, not a iota, but to herself, she perceives herself as the hottest thing since sliced bread. And so the situations, I'll give you an example. She's walking down the street and someone from a job site whistles to the crane driver. Because she has a belief about herself that she's beautiful and she's the hottest thing since sliced bread, she assumes that the whistle is about her. She goes, oh, that's what that feels like. Then she goes into a shop and someone says to her, oh, she's like got a ticket for like the let's just say it's not the deli line, but whatever the line is, the laundromat line. And the guy goes, oh, what's your number? And she thinks, again, because she believes that she's the hottest thing since sliced bread, oh, he must be asking for my number in a swift way. But what happens is even though she looks the same, like you said before, she might not be externally perfectly looking, but because she believes that she is, that she's not broke, and she starts manifesting all of these fantastic, situations.
Now you've opened Pandora's box. The manifestation circles. And that's another thing I sort of help people unravel, because the manifestation, ever since The Secret came out, everyone's jumped on the bandwagon of The Secret and the manifestation stuff, which I get it, that people are pumping this thing about vibration and frequency. If you just vibrate at the top level, if you just have a frequency, it'll all come to you, right? And most people think that if I vibrate at a certain level, then I'll win Tats Lotto. Most people think that they'll get a windfall of cash in somehow, right?
Do you think people still think that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because
I believe, I personally, you can call it, there's a great quote that came out, not a quote, like an Instagram picture. And it said, religious people call it prayer. Spiritual people call it manifesting. Quantum physics people call it, what's the quantum field or whatever it is. No one's denying. Everyone's saying the different thing. No one's denying. For me, I believe that you have. You can call it whatever you want. I'm saying manifest, whatever, but I don't mean The Secret, just sit here and do nothing and da-da-da.
So there's a couple of things, right? So and again, I do a heap of business coaching with people, right? And we still go back to, well, what do you want to manifest? And again, back to why do you want to do that?
So you still you do believe and use the word manifest, but you're bucking how most people view it.
Yeah. So most people are trying to get to somewhere because of their insecurities, right? So I want to be skinny because I want to be fat. I want to be rich because I want to be poor. So in that space, what are you creating from?
You're creating from a place of not wanting something.
So which creates what?
The thing that you don't want.
Correct, right? But that's what happens. You have to shift this place
because that's what you're focusing on. That's where the energy is driving from.
But most people are trying to still just visualize this. Grab your vision board. Listen to a video. Listen to a YouTube video about raising your vibration, right? And you're trying to do it from a place of negativity or a place of lack or insecurity. And until you address that, you're going to manifest jack shit.
So what you're saying is it's not that manifestation isn't real. It's
No,
just that you have to do the freaking work first.
We have to realize
You can't just listen to a video.
So you have to do what we do, is this unlearning part of, once you unlearn, then you don't have to try to manifest anything, right?
Yeah.
But there's the other place, right? And this is the thing where I don't agree with these spiritual coaches who just talk about vibration and frequency. Because as you and I know, who have been, successful business coaches, unless you have something that people want to buy, then you've got nothing. You have to have something that we work in the 3-dimensional world. If you don't have a skill set that people want to pay lots of money for, then they're not going to. You can vibrate as much as you want, and you can visualize, you can be in frequency, but if your skill set is you can fry chips at McDonald's, you'll get paid the price.
You get paid in relation to the value that you bring to any market. One might argue that you might not if you're as a chip fry, for instance, use that example, you're not going to manifest the Dad's Lotto. However, maybe
you'll manifest somebody coming into your life.
Somebody coming into your life that could
help you take the next journey, the next level, next step into where you want to get to. Right now, that's how it works.
Yes, that's what I believe.
That's how it really works. But most people think that magic shit does happen, right? But you have to have something. This is where I say to people, like, I get the spiritual coaches. I don't necessarily disagree with what they're saying, but they're missing parts of it.
Yeah, share the information a bit more authentically. A bit like anything, like whether it's the ayahuasca, whether it's anything, share the truth and the context of the reality of what it takes, not just the highlight of the best bit that it takes.
Well, and then and I shared this a while ago on a video clip, right? There was I won't say names, but you can probably get to the point where I'm coming from, right? So there's a course on Mind Valley about manifestation and abundance and all that kind of stuff, right? And about being able just to, all this is meditations. Quantum leap, right? It's all about visualizations and meditations and all that kind of stuff, right? The problem is that the person who runs that already has a very, very big following. So she can manifest whatever she wants because she's done the hard yards, she's done the work, right? Putting a course out, she'll generate millions and millions and millions of dollars or whatever because she is already very, very, very well known.
Yes.
But if you're at the bottom level, all right, and you're listening to this visualization and having these DNA codes activations and again, it shits me because people kind of think if I activate your DNA, then all of a sudden I'll become abundant. Or if I do this meditation where I change my frequency, that all of a sudden I become this abundance and all that kind of stuff, right? And most people think abundance is money, right? So we have to dissolve all this stuff, right? Because the manifestation genre is so full of inaccuracies because we attach abundance to money, and money is not abundance. Like I'll show you many, many wealthy people who are miserable.
It can be a form of abundance.
It gives you choice.
Yeah.
It does give you choice, right? But
it can also be a prison.
Well, it can be. Yeah, absolutely. And so you have all these people who are teaching these courses about, just go in with your eyes wide open that to really have, like, if you want to put money in your life, you have to have a skill set that people want. And that's the missing part with, I think, a lot of these courses that people teach is I wish they would say to people, right, let's do the meditations. Let's do the frequency stuff. Let's do the visualizations. Let's do the Neville Goddard stuff. The feeling is a secret. If anyone wants to watch some real abundant stuff, like you guys are out there, if you want to watch some real stuff, the truth about abundance, Neville Goddard is the man for it, right?
Who's the guy that died of leukemia? Anyways, I listened to something on YouTube and he talks about Neville a lot.
Yeah, and so he's got the thing as the feeling is a secret, and you've got the law of assumption, all that kind of stuff, right? But you have to have the skill sets to match it, because otherwise you're missing a very massive part of manifestation and creation, because you can't sell anything. And that's where this whole thing about, yes, we live in the 3-dimensional world. We have to play the game. And playing the game is you have to have something that people want to buy.
Yeah.
Without that, you don't have a lot. And the same thing with a relationship, right? It's that if you want to have the relationship, you've got to become that first.
You've got to be valuable.
You've got to have what are you bringing to the table? So I'm bringing love, abundance, connection, communication, intimacy. You've got to be that myself. Whereas most relationships, it's like, I want you to fix me. I want you to come in and there's insecurities inside of me.
Well, I want to feel this, but I don't care how I'm making you feel.
Yeah. I want you to make me feel this, right? And so no one's bringing it. So it's this whole thing about I've got to bring this to the table. So yeah, I love the spiritual industry. People who follow me, who know me, know that I'm quite controversial at times.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to help people make some of my values are about truth, honesty, integrity, and transparency, right? And I may upset people at times, and people may not agree with what I've got to say, and that's completely okay. Like, no issue with that. It's just that I've seen too many people, time and money and effort down rabbit holes where they've been sold this stuff to really have nothing come out of it.
From my perspective, it's interesting what you're saying, and I agree with everything you're saying. I just personally, I think because was there a point where, when I'm listening to you speak, I feel like I'm hearing you, like you're trying to, what I was trying to say was, I agree with everything you're saying. I always assume that people won't fall for that stuff.
Whereas I feel like the quick fix, they're after the pill. They're after that thing is that if I just do this abundance code DNA activation download, and all of a sudden, I'll have abundance come into my life. And look, I get that because people want this quick fix these days. Like everyone wants the pill to help them overcome their depression or anxiety. Give me something that takes it away for me. And that's, unfortunately, modern society these days, we don't want to do the hard work. We don't want to, jump in that path. But there's also, again, like some very clever marketers out there who, prey on this stuff because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Why wouldn't you want to jump on and try and grab people's money and say, here, if I give you a DNA activation code, all of a sudden all your abundance and your love's going to come through, right? Because people want that stuff, And so I sort of just shine a light on it, like, hey guys,
just be careful.
Be very careful with some of this stuff because there's some people out there who aren't, don't have
integrity.
Yeah, they don't have your best interest at heart. They're trying to sell you something, right? And
do you think it's a bit like the psychics? Do you think that generally people are sitting there like coaches and spirit teachers trying to rip people off, or do you think that they have good intentions?
Yeah. There's a few people. Most people have good intentions, right? I've been in this game since I was in my early 20s, right? So I'm 49 now. And I'm learning and who I am now will be different in 3 years' time and 5 years and 10 years' time, right? It will just evolve. But there is this thing where, we used to call them the weekend warriors, where you go in on a Friday and get your certificate, and then on the Monday you're teaching people or coaching people. I see a lot of, there's a lot and you would see this in the business coaching space, right? Is that people promoting these 50K, 60K, 100 grand months, right? But none of it's true. They're out there, I'll get you 10 grand, 20 grand kind of months, right? But they're just grabbing other people's stuff and then repurposing it and then using marketing skills to get you to, okay, well, if I can get 10 grand, 20 grand months, then I can give up my job, or I can feel a bit freer, or I don't have to worry, don't have to stress and all that kind of stuff. So, it's just the game.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that, like for me, I've joined programs, I've spent a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and I literally just had the guy on before.
Yeah.
He actually was the first person who sold me into a 20K program, who their promise was you get to 100K in 12 months with an online business. Now, I had been a coach for 12 years at this point.
Yeah.
And like I didn't get the results that I wanted, but I realized, like for me, I've always blamed. Well, that's my point. Is the reason I'm probably a bit naive, and I've learnt the hard way with clients because I just assume, like for me, I'm willing to do the work as hard or as painful it is, and many times I haven't achieved the goal that I've set out to achieve.
Yep.
But I feel like spiritually, I've character-wise, like I have the belief that this was supposed to help me in some sort of way. So when I think. If you're looking for the quick fix, like that's the thing is that if you want some,
I'm being honest. I was definitely looking for the quick fix, but life, I learned through my 20s. It was the quick fix.
Yeah,
I read an article from Elon Musk's wife.
Yeah,
and she said that he
from age 20 to 30 had a goal of just becoming the best at whatever he does, like science and whatever. And then he had a goal from 30 to 40 for another 10 years to become great at business. And I thought, wow, my goals, I have them for the next, I want to be a millionaire this year.
Yeah.
And I thought, and at about 30, I realized, wow, I'd had a million projects I'd done. Some were successful, some weren't successful. A lot of them weren't successful. I'd failed at a lot of things.
Yep.
Had a lot of fun as well, a lot of heartache.
Yep.
But I thought, what if I just stopped doing this? What if I stopped chasing the quick fix?
Yep.
And I said, what if I want to be successful in business. Yes, it was for the wrong reasons as well at the time. So I learned that lesson too. But I said, what if even at the end of the day, worst case scenario, as long as I've got money by the time I'm 40, I think because I want to have a family, I don't want to go through what my dad through, where financial stress came into our family, and I don't want to have that. And giving myself that 10-year space stopped a lot of the rushing, the quick fixing, and I think and made me more willing to do the work, if that makes sense.
It's just hard. Like it's again, we're
people in a lot of pain, they're suffering. They just want the quick pill.
But and I'll just see a lot of it especially in the spiritual manifestation space that just have your eyes open, and if there is one thing I give people and a bit of advice to people, if you're going into a place, we're seeing a course that does do this kind of spiritual DNA or activation or wealth abundance codes, whatever it is, like if they don't talk about your skill set, then have red flags all over it, because they have to teach you. So they have to get inside you and say, okay, Scott, what is it that you've got to offer?
What are you bringing to the world?
What's your dream? What can you sell that people are going to pay money for?
Yeah. What value are you?
What value you bring in, right? And if they don't have that as part of the course, then it's just a BS meditation course. And that's the part that for me, being open and honest, that that's why the industry hates me, is because I sort of just go, these people aren't telling you everything. Now they may want to try and upsell you into the ascension model. That okay, this is the base level. Now, if you want to join our mastermind group at whatever it is, then we'll help you discover that. But also understand that the first meeting should be, hey, actually, Scott, you don't have much of a skill set. Yeah. So what would you like to learn that actually does create a skill set? Because you shouldn't do this course until you actually have something that you're actually driven and passionate about. Right?
So you're not shitting on the techniques or the things themselves. You're saying that without the base of a skill or something, then
Oh, look, that's why I referenced Neville Goddard before, because I follow Neville Goddard's processes, like the visualizations, go to bed as if you're being in the presence of I've already attained it, the law of belief, all that kind of stuff, law of faith. Those techniques,
act as if.
Yeah, all that stuff is very, very highly important. Without that, none of it works. But you have to have.
But it's skill plus action plus the spiritual
energy side of it. Yeah. So most people are just teaching the energy side of it. All right. So if you do go into some course, they should ask, okay, where are you right now? What have you got? What are you dreaming to get? Not just, but it depends what you want to do. Like if you're doing it purely from a relationship perspective, you want to manifest your dream relationship. Yeah. Then the core thing should be, so whoever's trying to sell it to you should be, okay, where are you right now? Tell us about your history. Tell us about your past. What have you done to actually address some of that past? What are some of the problems you're struggling with right now? And if they're not asking those questions, then you're just another number for them. You're just another, a person to come in and sell stuff to, right? Because without that, they've got no idea about what they're trying to sell to you. Like, they got no idea about you.
At what point do you think it's a person's personal responsibility to take ownership for, let's say there is scam artists or doing different things, whether it's a car or whether it's a course, at what point do you think it's this is your exact point right now?
Yeah. But the people who are running these courses should have this integrity that, okay, this person needs to do some serious personal work. Now we can help them out with that before we go down this path of just trying to visualize manifestation. You need to deal with this stuff, right? or you need to have a skill set, or you need to be able to go and do 10 years of training in this or 3 years of training in that to try and achieve that kind of, because you need to be...
You're not just, I think you posted a thing from Jay Shetty, you're not just going to do a 10-week life coaching certification. I think I watched the video.
Yeah.
What life experience have you got to be able to coach people through certain things if you haven't been through them yourself?
It's difficult because people want to be able to upskill their life.
Again, it comes from a good intention.
Well, it does come from a good intention, but you got to have your wares about you that the people who are selling this stuff to you actually ask the right questions of you, and it's just, unfortunately, it's just not the case in a lot of areas, right? So, but you must have a skill set. So if you are doing something, it's having that person that can sit by you and guide you and help you it's a bit of a catchphrase, but unlock that genius. What is your genius that you can bring to the table? And it may take you 2 or 3 or 4 years to really go deep into that place to find that. And that's what people they want. Again, when we talk about the quick fix, I want to be able to do this 2-week, 3-week, 4-week course, to be able to then go and sell 50 grand products. Like it's taken me years to get to the place where...
You got to solve a $50,000...
you do.
You got to be able to solve a $50,000 problem if you want to get paid 50, and not just mean like a like a tangible.
Correct. Yeah. So, it's I've seen it all so much. It's just across the time, and that's also why people work with me, because I'm pretty straight down the line. Even when I was doing psychic readings, was just be set. Get ready. Set yourself in, because stuff's going to happen, right? And it's fairly it's what I do changes every aspect of your life, but it will strip you bare.
Yeah,
and that's the point of it, because everything you believe you think is true is actually an illusion.
I think that's the podcast gods saying, all right, guys, wrap it up. Dude, epic shares. If there was one thing that you wanted to leave as a closing of the loop, anything that's on your heart, you might have already spoken about it, you want to let it bring the plane down to land, or just a note for the watchers. What's your final piece in closing?
You're never too old, and it's never too late.
Love that.
Because, the moment that you accept the place you want to get to is the moment, and you become honest with yourself. Magic stuff changes, right? You're never, ever too old. But if you're really open to something that really transforms your life, it's there if you want it. Beautiful.
Dude, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. I had a fantastic time, and wow, we went so many different places. But thanks for sharing your
pleasure,
your wisdom, your guidance. I'll chuck, if you guys want to connect with Greg, I will put all of his links underneath in whichever platform you're watching this. And this is the Make Men Great Again podcast. This is Greg Riley. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you guys on another episode really soon. Bye for now.
What an awesome episode. And if you want to watch more, just click the button here, or here. Watch the next one, and we'll see you soon.